Okay, let's look at plectrum style bass playing. Or what I'm ideally going to do is just show you how to hold the plectrum, and you can play some of these left hand exercises using a plectrum instead of your two fingers. Okay, so the key thing is to know how to hold the plectrum here. So what I'm doing here is that I'm holding it between my first finger and my thumb. Okay, I know that's fairly obvious, but just in case any of you guys had other ideas, this is really the way you should be doing it. So you've just got half the plectrum showing above your fingers here. Yeah. Then, when I bring it back down to bear on the bass, I like to use my actual the fleshy part of my palm as a kind of mute on the bass. Really, I'm using it as a kind of anchor point. Now I can mute it with that part of my hand, and by lifting it off and moving it more towards a bridge, I can let it actually ring. So this is good as a kind of mute thing if you're playing a note. Now what I'm using here is up and down strokes, okay? So what I suggest for you guys, just to get used to playing with the plectrum, it's good just to pick the A string and go either side of it with the pick. Really slowly. Now this up and down technique is the most useful, I've found, because you can get a rhythm going on one note. Now the easier approach is to use the downstroke on everything. Same rule applies with the way you're playing the bass and where you're playing it and how you use this kind of mute with your right hand. But all I'm doing at this point is much easier to do, is just hitting down notes. So if we were going to play the finger per fret exercise, it would be like this. Okay, using all downstrokes. And apply all of this stuff to the downstroke, okay? Most of it is going to be just using the plectrum just to hit down. And I think really, once you've got that downstroke thing going, you can use the occasional upstroke to get you going. Also, you need to have a reasonably good mute with the left hand as well. So hitting the note and stopping it. And notice here, if I'm using open strings, my thumb does tend to come round. Now that in itself is quite tricky to do. Again, as I say, the mute with the left hand is always quite tricky if you're starting out. But the key is to just keep playing these things. Again, it can be a non-musical exercise. So what you're looking at is maybe sitting down again without the bass plugged in and just getting used to how the plectrum feels against the bass. Now, because you are using a plectrum and there's a lot more kind of going on with this hand, accuracy is very important, and you might find you'll hit other strings and you'll get horrible noises. So your muting technique, be it the fleshy part of your hand here or this left hand, is very important to getting things clean. So you've got to make sure you get the basics very, very clean, and then you slowly bring it up to tempo. Again, usual thing with a metronome. If you've got a metronome, you can start these off at slow tempos and try and play along with the metronome and get things sounding really relaxed. And initially, there you have it with the plectrum. At this point, It's a great sound. I use the Plectrum a lot on bass. You choose the tunes that you're going to play. I mean, obviously certain songs don't work very well with Plectrum for me, but there's a lot of rock stuff and maybe some indie pop stuff that works fantastic with Plectrum. Actually makes for a more cutting sound through the amp as well. So you get a bit more definition with the strings. If you're hitting them accurately, the bass can sound thundering with the Plectrum. So it's well worth trying it out and well worth getting this technique under your belt. You may find that you drop it a lot to start with. As your fingers get sweaty, it kind of tends to slip out your fingers in the middle of a song, but you just have to hang on to it, yeah? And slowly you become comfortable with it. So hands-on time. So check it out.